perfection.
Dehinam
Of every living being. Iha in this world. Dehishu toward those who are embodied. Pranahi by life. Artayi by wealth. Dhiya by intelligence. Vacha by words. Shreya eternal good fortune. Acharanam acting practically. Sada always. Translation by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. It is the duty of every living being to perform welfare activities for the benefit of others with his life, wealth, intelligence and words. Can we do it together?
Yeah.
It is the duty of every living being to perform welfare activities for the benefit of others with his life, wealth, intelligence and words. This is a very short purport, but this translation is quoted from Srila Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila 9.42. So we will go there, 9.42, Adi Lila. If you have your phone, you can do it. Otherwise, I can start. The same verse is there, and the translation is there. It is the duty of every living being to perform welfare activities for the benefit of others with his life, wealth, intelligence, and words. Does anyone have it on their phones?
I have.
Would you like to read the purport, please? Yes, please.
Okay. There are two kinds of general activities: Shreyas, or activities which are ultimately beneficial and auspicious, and Prayas, or those which are immediately beneficial and auspicious. For example, children are fond of playing. They do not want to go to school to receive an education, and they think that to play all day and night and enjoy with their friends is the aim of life. Even in the transcendental life of Lord Krishna, we find that when he was a child, he was very fond of playing with his friends of the same age, the cowherd boys. He would not even go home to take his dinner. Mother Yashoda would have to come out to induce him to come home. Thus, it is a child's nature to engage all day and night in playing, not caring even for his health and other important concerns. This is an example of prayers or immediately beneficial activities. But there are also shreyas or activities which are ultimately auspicious. According to Vedic civilization, a human being must be God conscious. He should understand what God is, what this material world is, who he is, and what their relationships are. This is called shreyas, or ultimately auspicious activity. In this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that one should be interested in shreyas. To achieve the ultimate goal of shreyas, or good fortune, one should engage everything, including his life, wealth, and words, not only for himself, but for others also. However, unless one is interested in shreyas in his own life, he cannot preach of shreyas for the benefit of others. This verse cited by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu applies to human beings, not to animals. As indicated in the previous verse, by the words Manushya Janma, these injunctions are for human beings. This is Chaitanya Charitamrita. Bharata Bhagavate Hoya Manushya Janmaya, I think. Yeah. As indicated in the previous verse, by the words Manushya Janma, these injunctions are for human beings. Unfortunately, human beings, although they have the bodies of men, are becoming less than animals in their behavior. This is the fault of modern education. Modern educators do not know the aim of human life. They are simply concerned with how to develop the economic condition of their countries or of human society. This is also necessary. The Vedic civilization considers all aspects of human life, including dharma, religion, artha, economic development, kama, sense gratification, and moksha, liberation. But humanity's first concern should be religion. To be religious, one must abide by the orders of God, but unfortunately, people in this age have rejected religion and they are busy in economic development. Therefore, they will adopt any means to get money. For economic development, one does not need to get money by hook or by crook. One needs only sufficient money to maintain his body and soul. However, because modern economic development is going on with no religious background, people have become lusty, greedy, and mad after money. They are simply developing the qualities of rajas, passion, and tamas, ignorance, neglecting the other quality of nature, sattva, goodness, and the Brahminical qualification. Therefore, the entire society is in chaos. Last paragraph. The Bhagavatam says that it is the duty of an advanced human being to act in such a way as to facilitate human society's attainment of the ultimate goal of life. There is a similar verse in the Vishnu Purana, part 3, chapter 12, verse 45, which is next quoted in the Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaryam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sarvajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranama Vanchakalpatarupascha Vipasindhu Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Tamal Krishna Goswami Purnamine Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. So I'm praying for the blessings of all you exalted Vaishnavas so that I can say something which is useful. I just wanted to know how many of you are medical professionals? Okay, it is about half. All right. So I chose this verse because medicine is basically a service professional. And the Bhagavatam verse is telling how we can use our life, our wealth, our intelligence, and our words in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so because the one of the themes that we spoke about was service to the Vaishnavas and to the senior devotees. So I thought, how can we, just by practicing medicine, engage everything, our lives, our wealth, intelligence, and words, in the service of Krishna. So most of us may not be so fortunate that we can dedicate our lives fully to Krishna consciousness, just like Maharaj and these devotees who have given their lives, or pioneers in the movement and are serving in the temple fully, right? But we definitely can use our intelligence, our words, and our wealth in the service of the Lord. And the verse speaks about how there are two kinds of activities, right? You remember from the verse, one is shreyas and the other is prayers. Yes. So prayers speaks about duties from which we get prompt or immediate gratification. Like in this verse, the purport is saying how a child may like to play, right? And he thinks the goal of life is to just play and have a good time. But the parents or the responsible guardians of the child understand that there is a higher purpose to his life, which is to connect with the Supreme Lord and fulfill the aim of his life. So that is called Shreyas, right? And in the purport it's said how Shreyas basically means we have to understand, like Srila Prabhupada says in the Gita, who is the Supreme Lord, who is the Jiva, what is material nature, and what is the relationship of the Jiva with the Supreme Lord. And once we understand this relationship, then how can we engage in loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, to get to the ultimate goal of Shreyas. Now, so yesterday we saw that there was a presentation, quite a lengthy presentation, with many devotees speaking about Vaishnava care, service to the Vaishnavas. So as medical professionals also, we encounter this amazing dynamic where we are called on to serve Vaishnavas. We serve those who are not yet Vaishnavas mostly, but we also serve those who are Vaishnavas. And so and a lot of times the Vaishnavas we are serving are senior to us, by age, by amount of service, their advancement in Krishna consciousness. So how do we navigate this dynamic where we are called upon to serve the Vaishnavas who are more exalted than us, right? It is like and they are asking us for our service in terms of giving them medical advice for some things which may be going on with their lives, right? So usually we see that the senior person or the person who's more advanced, he is instructing the junior. But here, so what often happens is that we are juniors and we are serving, or we are called on to instruct or give advice to those who are our seniors. So this becomes a very interesting dynamic. So in order to do this, we have to understand that this is an integral part of our spiritual practice. And when we serve senior Vaishnavas, it gives us an opportunity to express our devotion and also to develop humility. So I was thinking, can you think of any examples in the Shastra where the junior instructed a senior? Yes, Prabhu.
Sanatan Goswami telling Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to not go to Vrindavan with so many disciples.
Yes, very nice example. Yes, thank you. Any others? One from the CC, there is a whole chapter where, yes, Mataji.
Ramananda Rai.
Yes, Ramananda Rai, both of you said the same thing, yes. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is asking Ramananda Rai, right, to describe what is the highest goal of life. And Ramananda Rai is just being the mouthpiece, right, of Lord Chaitanya, and seems like he's instructing him. Not in the mood of like, Lord Chaitanya is asking me this, so I am like the teacher. But actually, in the mood of service, the Lord is asking him to explain, to be his mouthpiece, to explain to people in general what is the ultimate goal of life, right? So this is a very well-known example. In Srila Prabhupada's life also we see that he would sometimes consult his disciples as to how to go about or what was the predominant culture, or what is the news, what are people thinking. And then he would get some information from them about strategies for preaching. Or if he had a strategy, then he would run it by his disciples. Sometimes even to those people who were not yet, but just favorable to Krishna consciousness. And he would ask them those questions, right? So we see that this is not an unprecedented thing. We have the examples in Shastra and in our own lifetimes. We see in the examples of Srila Prabhupada and our spiritual masters, they will also consult other Vaishnavas, even those who are not yet Vaishnavas but are favorable, experts in the field, as to how to push forward this Krishna consciousness movement, or how to best to position themselves in the best way so they can fulfill the mission of Srila Prabhupada in spreading this Krishna consciousness. So this is, as medical professionals, we are also facing this challenge, right? How do we serve the Vaishnavas following the Vaishnava etiquette, but at the same time be able to give them the guidance that they need. Right? So a very important part, actually the first instruction we get in the Nectar of Devotion is Ada Guru Ashraya, right? We have to take shelter of a spiritual guide, and that is the foundation of our spiritual progress. So senior Vaishnavas, whether they are our Shiksha or Diksha Gurus, they are actually carriers of Krishna's mercy. So serving them is not only an honor, but it is also an act of spiritual responsibility on our part. And so we have to understand this very special position of the senior Vaishnavas. And when we are called, however, there is a little, we encounter this little dichotomy, right? Because when we say that there is someone is spiritually advanced, and they are asking us to take care or give advice about their material bodies, but at the same time we understand that the spiritually evolved soul, their body is Satchidananda, right? It is eternal, full of knowledge, full of bliss, and therefore it is not a material body in that sense, it's spiritualized. So how do we bridge this gap, right? So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Antya Lila, 4.194, there's this purport, which gives us some caution. If one thinks that the body of a pure devotee is material, he is an offender, for that is a Vaishnava aparad. In this connection, one should consult Sri Sanatan Goswami's Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and there are two references given. So we have to come in with the understanding that the bodies that we are called upon to take care of or heal are spiritual, right? And if we think that the body of a pure devotee is material, then that is an offense. The Brihad Bhagavatamrita 2.3.139 commentary says, even devotees who still live in this world in bodies made of material energy can engage in pure bhakti because the awakening of bhakti transforms their bodies. Either their bodies become literally Satchidananda, or bhakti enters their material bodies by the potency of the Supreme Lord's special mercy, or else their bodies and senses become suitable for performing bhakti by some God-given potency inherent in the jivas themselves, right? So, by keeping this in our mind, we can avoid the offense of committing Vaishnava aparad. And our Shastra has examples of those devotees who committed this offense, right? Of considering that the spiritual master or even the Supreme Lord or an advanced devotee is just a regular conditioned soul. Can we think of any examples where someone committed an offense?
Ramachandra Puri.
Yes, Ramachandra Puri, the classical example, right? What was his offense?
Instructing Madhavendra Puri.
Yes, Madhavendra Puri was his spiritual master. Yeah, and then he was instructing Madhavendra Puri, and he was not called on, he was not asked. Whereas in the case of the Vaishnava etiquette says that unless we are asked for correction, we do not offer. In the case of medical professionals, at least that doesn't happen. We are asked to offer that service. So that very graphic example. And the opposite side of Ramachandra Puri was Ishwar Puri. He served his spiritual master, right? He served his body, taking care of cleansing him, and giving him all support. And in this way, he gained the favor of Madhavendra Puri. And the ultimate favor was, he became the spiritual master of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Chaitanya. So he is the example we would like to follow. There is another example in the Bhagavatam about Sobari Muni. Sobari Muni, who did he offend? Garuda, right? Garuda came, he was trying to get his normal nourishment, which was fish, right? And Sobari Muni, out of his compassion, based on his, mode of goodness, he tried to shelter those fish, forgetting that he was being an obstacle in the path of the devotee of the Lord Garuda. And therefore we see he had a reaction, right? He fell down from his position, from his very mystic austerity, and had to go back to enjoy material life. So this offense to the devotees is considered like the mad elephant offense, right? And then there are also other, in Jagannath Puri, Pundarik Vidyanidhi, right? When it was Odana Shasti, and he was just thinking in his mind, the Lord is offered new cloth, but it is starched. It is very harsh. These devotees did not take care to wash this cloth. How can they offer this to the Lord? And then what happened? The devotees did not take offense. He did not verbalize it, but Jagannath took offense. How dare you criticize my devotees? I love their service. So he came in a dream, and what did he do? He slapped Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And he woke up in the morning with swollen cheeks. And then he realized that his offense. Right? There's an example of Srila Prabhupada in this aspect, that he went to visit the brother of his guru, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And of course, the brother of his spiritual master is like his spiritual master. That is the etiquette. So he had previously spoken to him about updating or rejuvenating the birthplace of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. But somehow or other, he had forgotten, the brother of his Guru Maharaj had forgotten or had not taken that into consideration. So when Srila Prabhupada brought up that point again during their conversation, his brother, this Vaishnava, was against it. He seemed to be not only for it, but he seemed to discourage Srila Prabhupada from rejuvenating or what would we say? Making it more available, the birthplace of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. To re-establish, yes, and establish the glories. So here, Srila Prabhupada used a very interesting technique. Instead of, here is his senior who is kind of like not agreeable to some process to spread the glories of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. And then, so Srila Prabhupada posed a question. He said, isn't it sinful if someone doesn't want to glorify the birthplace of our predecessor acharyas? So he didn't accuse him or directly, he just posed this question. And isn't it sinful if we are blocking the re-establishment of the birthplaces of this our predecessor acharyas, these holy places of pilgrimage? So in this way, he got his point across, but he did not directly confront his senior. Okay? So also in our case, when we are dealing with senior Vaishnavas, what are some of the things that we need to be cognizant of or keep in mind? So we perform our service in a mood of service, not that we are giving advice, in that way. So one of the first principles is, of course, to be very respectful when we treat of course we have to be respectful when we treat everyone, right? But especially when treating the senior devotees, we have to be very respectful. Sometimes though, the senior devotees may appear to us very intimidating, right? Because of their position, their spiritual stature, and in every way they are very exalted. So I have committed all the errors in taking care of devotees. So His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj was diagnosed with prostate cancer in 1997. So, and it wasn't, and I was, he would consult with me for his medical things, but I did not ask him or advise him for a prostate, to get his prostate checked. His mother, however, was insisting that he gets it checked. And at that time, of course, there is no standard at this point that if someone is at low risk for prostate cancer, you don't offer, or if you offer it, at least it should be offered. So when the PSA, which was done, and then it came out abnormal, and then I was feeling so bad, like he's asking me for medical advice, and why didn't I mention it to him? But knowing his nature, he was so heavy, you can say, and it was hard for me to tell him that, as part of our screening. After that, I learned that we screen for prostate cancer, even though we know that the body of the spiritual master, of the exalted devotee, is spiritual. So I was feeling very disturbed. But he was very kind. He said, you did the right thing, because you thought, you worked on that principle that the body of the spiritual master is spiritual, and therefore you did the right thing in terms of etiquette. So he made me feel better. But at the same time, the lesson I learned is that we have to offer. Even if they ask us, then we should offer what is the general principle that we offer to everyone. And then the decision can be made, right? So I'm sure you may have had something, many, those in the medical professional may have had these situations where people ask us for advice, and then we think, okay, how shall we address this? The thing is to address it by saying that, this is the standard in our medicine, that these are the investigations, or these are the diagnoses we consider, and then how would you like to proceed? So that is also an important principle, that before we have to educate, and then we have to seek their permission, right? We do this with our patients too, and how much so with those who are our venerable Vaishnavas. Like a common example for me would be like someone comes to me for a regular checkup, right? Because I had my practice, and they would come, so I have to speak about, okay, we have to do prostate exam, right? So we educate. We do this rectal exam to check for prostate cancer, and it involves, like describe the procedure, like examining physically to the rectum. What do you feel about it? So by giving them a choice and educating them about what is the procedure, and then they have the freedom to either agree or to say, no, I will go to someone else. Actually, now in our community, we have many other doctors and medical professionals. So it's very easy to pass on this service to those of the same sex, to the male physicians, and they can do it that way. So we have to be sensitive to gender, and in medicine also we are sensitive to gender. And if we follow this same sensitivity when we are dealing with devotees. Then there are some other practical tips that we use. The place and the spiritual environment is also important. Just as someone who's very spiritually advanced can look at a person and say, this is Vaishnava material right now, let me invest my time in him, right? Or this person, I don't need to spend so much time. So similarly, sometimes Krishna gives us this ability to just see someone and we see something is wrong, right? You've had this experience?
Yes.
The life air is just like, you can see it's diminished, right? So then sometimes, because we have this relationship with Vaishnavas, we may just tell them without they asking us, like, Prabhu, I feel like, when was the last time you saw a doctor? Are you okay? So I had this one god brother, and this was in the temple room. I had seen him after many years. And when I saw him, I just saw something was wrong. It was like so shocking for me, because he was a very healthy, vibrant devotee. And then when I saw him, I said, and then in the temple room itself, I just blurted out, are you okay? Instead of even asking, are you okay? And I also said, like, I think something is wrong. You should see a doctor. So later on, after a few years, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer. But then he came back to me and he said, when you told me that, in the temple room, he was not prepared for that conversation in the temple room. And I was just like so shocked, I blurted it out to him. And so he just had resistance, right? He just completely shut it out till a few years later, and so there was a delay in diagnosis, right? So that was my error, not considering the right time and place to speak to someone, even though it becomes very obvious. There's a gentle way and a time to confront or to speak to people about what appears to be wrong, you know, because we are spirit souls. We think we are forever eternal, right? That's actually how we think, and therefore we kind of, when we are confronted with the fact that the body is getting old, it's a very difficult situation. You know, the first thing is like denial, right? And of course, Srila Prabhupada very clearly did not trust Western medicine, right? So a lot of devotees also do not trust allopathy. I mean, everyone in the medical profession, I would see, we have this one big barrier from devotees seeking care, right? They just do not trust. They don't trust, and they don't. They have fear of Western medicine. So therefore, they are not willing. They have so much fear that, and there's no trust. So they do not approach the medical professionals for things which may be bothering them, right? And so there's a big time lapse between when they consult us and by the time it may be too late, right? So, and then the other thing is, devotees by nature, they are very tolerant, they practice austerity, right? So they are, even if they're getting sick, they have some pains, things are not right, they just push through, right? They just push through, and they think, and then slowly they get adjusted till things come to a breaking point, right? When they suddenly have to go to the emergency room, right? You suddenly have to call the EMS, and then it's too late. So this is something that, and when they do approach us, it is because they feel like this person I can trust. No, this is a devotee, and I can at least, like, my doubt or my confusion, I can confide in this devotee. You know, that you can exchange that, and therefore it becomes our duty and our service to actually educate them and help them not be so afraid. You know, we tell them, we will hold your hand, we will be there to negotiate this particular part of your life with you. So you don't have to be afraid. We'll explain everything to you, because usually in medicine it's like these things are not so spoken about, right? So it's important for us to know where these devotees are coming from, so that we cannot just say, oh, why did you wait so long, right? You know, but we can understand where they are coming from, their mindset. And also when we are as professionals here, we do need mentors, right? Just in spiritual life we need mentors. So also in our practice of medicine, we also need devotee mentors who can tell us how to negotiate this particular interaction, right? I remember that when His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj had prostate cancer, he was recovering from surgery, and then he came back from the hospital, and then he started to vomit. You know, he was throwing up, and so normally, you know, like if we are in the clinic and someone is vomiting and cannot keep anything down, the first thing we tell them to eat or try is like crackers, right, or toast, right? So because I was thinking, you know, he doesn't eat outside, we don't eat outside grains, so I cannot recommend. So I said toast, I did not say crackers. But fortunately for me, he had a medical advisor, His Holiness Ritadvaja Swami. So Maharaj said, saltine crackers. And immediately Tamal Krishna Maharaj was, yes, crackers, you know. So because I had this mentor, it was easier for me to negotiate. And I remember during this time, his recovery was very rocky because there was a complication to his surgery. And anyway, he was a very sensitive individual, like most devotees are. So at one point, he was like really in pain or suffering and was asking, right, okay, like what do I do? At that point, I really remember this very clearly. Ritadvaja Maharaj told me, he said, Mother Guru Bhakti, Goswami Maharaj wants you to be his doctor. That was the turning point. right? He wanted me to act as his doctor, not as his disciple first. Like, am still his disciple, but he wanted me to take on that role. So that really helped me to be able to do that service of taking care of him post-operatively. Those of us who have been doing this service for some years have somehow learned through the school of experience how to negotiate it, and that's one of the reasons I speak. So like when we are coming up in this service, we know how to speak and how to give them the medical care that they need. I often have devotees who call, even devotee physicians who call me, or I may ask them, this devotee has called me for some problem, but you are in the same area. I would like you to order this test or see him. And their usual question, but Mataji, he's so senior, how do I tell him? And so we have to coach them, like we said yesterday, through how do you negotiate this? So keeping in mind Vaishnava etiquette and still the etiquette or the responsibility we have of doing this devotional service. So it's important for us to be able to communicate properly with them, to communicate with our peers, and also we communicate with the team. The team may be Vaishnavas and those who are not yet Vaishnavas. So how do we need to be able to bridge that gap, right? So we make it comfortable for the devotees to, the Vaishnava patient to be in the medical system and get the best care they need, and then allay their fears or their anxiety. And like we said yesterday, it's very important to have a team. Vaishnava care is a team effort. We need devotees. We need not only devotees with medical experience, but as we saw yesterday, caregivers. We need those who take care of the prasadam, those who give spiritual support. So all those things are needed to take care of these Vaishnavas. And this will, if we have the team, the services are divided, we have good support system, and we can do the service that we are called on to do. And in this way, we can balance, right? The key is to balance the authority, the medical authority, with humility in our service. So we can approach this unique opportunity in a way which will serve the devotee and serve us. So that is the goal. So by understanding the spiritual significance of these advanced Vaishnavas, the senior devotees, and maintaining this proper etiquette, and by addressing the challenges we have while we care for them, then we can provide them the service they need with, at the same time preserving their dignity and their honor, and expressing our devotion as part of our service. As Srila Prabhupada said, the service of the devotees is the highest perfection of life. So our prayer is that may we approach this service with the right consciousness and attitude, and seek not only to heal their bodies, but also to nourish their spirits and give them the best seva we can do in the service which is given to us, right? So I will stop here and ask for reflections, questions, corrections, experiences. Yes, Prabhu.
I am not your radical patient in terms of I will only take natural care or something like that. I try to remain balanced, in my approach of my own health care. I'm 75 now, so I try to take a balanced approach. I have the great fortune of having a wife who's a medical doctor, but is also trained in integrative medicine. And my advice, in my experience, in terms of the trust issue of the medical field, in 1995 I was diagnosed with hepatitis C. At the time, there was no real understanding of what hepatitis C was. The doctor that I went to said, well, I said, what's the future? And he said, oh, it's either cirrhosis or cancer of the liver. So he didn't give me much hope, in that regard, because he really didn't know. That's all they knew at the time. And then I went to a liver specialist, and he was very arrogant. He said, I said, what is the treatment? I think this was a few years later. And he said, the treatment is interferon ribavirin, BAS. He didn't say BAS, he wasn't Indian, he was Jewish. But he just said basically that was it. And I said, well, what results are you getting? I was questioning him. And he got very agitated. He said, I am the specialist. I'm the liver specialist, and I know what's best for you. And I said, well, I don't think you know what's best for me, because there's not a lot of stuff out there. So how can you know what's best for me? And then, my experience, the course of time, I eventually took a hepatitis treatment. It was a new treatment, and it was allopathic. It was interferon ribavirin and trelapivir. It was a new drug at the time. And when I asked the doctor, he was quite the opposite. He was very humble. And he said to me, well, this trelapivir, we're getting 75% cure rate on it. So, he was very balanced, and he was encouraging, and I went for it. Even though I don't normally take allopathic medicine, I tried to go more with the Ayurvedic treatment. But because of his approach, he didn't take on a position of arrogance. He took on a position of, well, here's what's available now. Here's the results that we are getting. And I've noticed in watching my wife over the years, through residency and everything, I noticed, her transformation. She had 14 years of medical training, and then she didn't stop there. She took 2 years of integrative medicine and 4 years of Ayurvedic, even after having 14 years of medical, 7 years medical school, 5 years MD, PhD, and 2 years internal medicine here in the States, 14 years. You would think that's enough, God. But then, feeling that it was her duty in service to humanity and to the Vaishnavas, she wanted to give people options. And I feel that's the greatest lack in the medical community. I can't say for the doctors, but I can say for the medical community as a whole. The greatest lack is there are no options. Either take a pharmaceutical or forget about it. Do something invasive like surgery or forget about it. So I can say, being representative of the old guard of devotees, I joined in 72 and actually traveled with Tamal Krishna Maharaj for 3 years on Radha Damodar traveling party. But being from the old guard, I am suspicious of a person who doesn't give options. So I would recommend to at least the new generation of medical caregivers that they look into options, natural options that have some validity, and give the devotees a choice. Like, you can do it like this is the allopathic way, or you can do it like this is a more natural way. Like, for instance, you have a headache, ibuprofen or aspirin. My wife recommends peppermint oil. It has the same effect. The headache goes away. You don't put into your body anything, that challenges the liver or whatever like that. So that's how I gain trust with the medical profession. My wife can't be my primary care physician legally, but she sends me to people who are open. And will be, if not know the option, be willing to allow me the option.
Good point.
Yeah.
So yes, the old school of some doctors are very paternalistic, but actually the doctor-physician relationship, it's a contract, right? We give options, and then the patient, it's his body, he has the right to refuse or accept the treatment. And then whatever it is, we help him with whatever way he chooses. I remember, His Holiness Gunagrahi Maharaj, he had prostate cancer stage 4. He was traveling from the US to India. He's in pain. He was using alternative medicine, no? You know what he was taking for pain? Take a guess. What was he doing for pain? Nothing. Zero. And I can see he's walking on his walker and he's in pain. And then a god sister of mine, who is a medical professional, a deal. I said, what is he on for pain? She said, nothing. I said, what? He deserves a narcotic. He's not going to get addicted. You know, how do you expect him to take this journey, you know, of 14 hours and be comfortable? So that's sometimes the ignorance is on both sides, you know. Like you said, we have to use best practices from each side. It's not that we have the magic bullet. And anyone who claims, like the surgeon who took care of Tamal Krishna Maharaj for his prostate cancer, he was very arrogant. He said, I guarantee 100% cure, and he was absolutely wrong. He made a mistake. So when anyone is so cocky like that, like I'm the expert, that's a red flag.
Yeah, I went to a pediatrician, top pediatrician in New York City, and she was looking at it was my son, and she was looking at his chart, and she said, "You're a vegetarian. In my office, you don't have the right to say that your child's a vegetarian. If I recommend something else, you have to follow that."
Oh, yeah.
I said, "Are you telling me that I cannot raise my child as a vegetarian?" She said, "Yes." I said, "I'll see you later." I immediately got up and I left. Top notch, whatever. I said, "I'll see you later." Oh, yeah.